Welcome to Gorilla Sports Off Court, a post-game live reaction for the Clippers-Nuggets Game 1. I am joined in just a moment by a special guest, Shelby Harris, to break it all down. We still have 10.9 left, so bear with us, but this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. Trusted American salary-based mortgage consultants want to help you get into a better interest rate and lower your monthly payments, so head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money today.
Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh. Shelby, we're here. Shelby did just admit off camera that the Nuggets are his second favorite team. If you don't know, the Bucks are his first favorite team, and we can talk a little bit about that game just briefly in a moment. But for now, 10.9 left in this game, Shelby. It's overtime.
Oh, yeah.
The Nuggets up by 3. There's been some mistakes that I think we could have avoided overtime altogether, and this Nuggets team could have just gotten a dub. But nonetheless, we're here. I'm not mad about it, because at one point, this Nuggets team was down by 15, and it was looking like it was heavily in the Clippers' favor.
It was looking like James Harden was really about to take over, and then
terrifying
foul trouble. But that's the thing about the Nuggets, is they're in every game.
What just
every
happened?
Game.
Okay, Westbrook just did something insane. What happened? By the way, that big 3 by Russell Westbrook, I hope the apologies are as loud as the disrespect by some of you, okay? You little keyboard warriors, you little trolls on Twitter, you just settle down, okay? What'd he do?
Oh, he just knocked the ball out of bounds. But I've been saying all year.
He is amped up too.
I've been saying all year, Russell Westbrook will be the X factor once the playoffs start.
Thank you, Shelby.
I don't understand where all that hate is coming from.
Me either.
It's because with the good comes a little bit of bad Russell Westbrook, but the good far outweighs the bad when it comes to that.
I 100% agree with you. And honestly, most of the hate comes from Lakers fans who couldn't figure out how to use Westbrook, and Westbrook didn't work for them. So they've got all these harsh feelings and animosity towards Russell Westbrook. But I don't know. I think we've become a generation where we just think like MVPs just happen and all-star performances are just a thing. Like, this is a great player, okay, in the game of basketball. This is a phenomenal player, and Russell Westbrook with a big-time play in this game, just another big-time play defensively. We saw him offensively splash a 3. I was yelling super, super loud, and Shelby's like, should we go? I was like, should we go live now? And I was like, yeah, maybe not. I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out as I'm yelling into the microphone. But 6.5 left in this game now. Nuggets still up by 3. I believe Jokic just got fouled. Yeah. He did. He's taking the line. I will say, as much as my GOAT, Nikola Jokic, I love him. Defensive efforts by him early in this game were pretty weak and a little disappointing. And then to miss 2 big-time free throws late in the game when overtime is on the line, you just hate to see stuff like that.
But then also a late technical.
Yes.
Like, it's just sloppy basketball for a team that's trying to advance in these playoffs. You can't make these little mistakes like that. But that's what the Nuggets, they've gotten lucky right now. They're up by 5 right now with 6.5 left. But
is it luck or is it just clutch genes, Shelby?
I think it's a little bit of luck too. I think it's a mix of both.
In there. Okay, there's a 3 by the Clippers. You just got to eat 0.9 seconds left. Nuggets up by 2. Game time, baby. Oh, and that's game. The Denver Nuggets win the first game of this series. Shelby, based on what we saw in this game alone, I have a feeling this is going to be a very exciting series.
I can't wait. Coming back from 15 down, and then after coming back from 15 down, it's just that dogfight back and forth at the end of the game. And then the Nuggets go up. The Clippers come back tired. We force overtime, and then we have a great overtime like that. I can't, this whole series, I wasn't planning on going to any games, but I might have to, make it stop.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I think there's a lot of things that you can take away from this game on both sides of it. Obviously, we're going to spend more time talking about the Nuggets in this particular situation, but with the Nuggets specifically, you did see a lot of things you liked, but you also saw a lot of room for improvement when it comes to facing this Clippers team. It is going to be a long series. I think it's going to go the distance, 6 or 7 at least in this series, just based on how Kawhi Leonard is playing, what we saw from James Harden tonight. I think a lot of people actually were worried that James Harden was either going to be an X factor in a positive way or in a negative way, because we know how he can be in the playoffs. He has that effect. Again, kind of like Russell Westbrook, you take the good with the bad and vice versa. So James Harden proving to be an X factor in this game. Kawhi Leonard, we already knew going into this, was going to be an X factor in this series. The Nuggets, though, I felt at halftime only being down by single digits and then being able to kind of bridge the gap a little bit, because first quarter, not looking hot. I mean, that was when I was like, do I turn this thing off? Because I don't know if I can handle it. They kind of found some rhythm and some groove in that second quarter. And to see that they were shooting like 40% from the field, less than that from the 3-point line, and still only down by single digits, made you feel pretty good as a Nuggets fan, knowing there's a lot of room for improvement offensively, because we know defense, and I'm sure you've watched Nuggets games all season. Shelby, their defense has been horrible all year.
Yeah, defense has struggled. Defense has struggled. But then that second quarter, the biggest thing I think that really changed the momentum of that game was the end of the first half.
Yeah.
The end of that second quarter when they made that run. But then also, and I think this is something that all the fans and everyone watching can agree with, the refs do not need to be so involved, because also part of that reason of why the Nuggets were able to come back was the foul trouble that the Clippers were happening to be under. And so that right there really brought the Nuggets back. I know the Nuggets are happy about it, but then Jokic was in foul trouble too. So right now we have to figure out, like, what are we trying to watch? Are we trying to watch the ref show? Or are we trying to watch the actual basketball game? I
would love to not watch a ref show. And I will say, here's the thing about officiating in general. I think it's very difficult because I really try not to blame the refs for a win or for a loss on either side. Like when the Nuggets lose and there's some bad calls, I really try to avoid being like, oh, the refs like got in their way, whatever. But I think this is a really good opportunity for the Nuggets to remember that if the game is coming down to officiating, good or bad, you're not doing your job. It should never be that close. There were mistakes that the Nuggets were making early in this game. Jokic, as much as I love him, his defensive efforts in the beginning of this game were embarrassing. I mean, he was getting swallowed up. And we know Zubac knows how to work Jokic. He just does. And this is not new information. We've been knowing this. So I anticipated that. And also, I'm not sure what has he been putting in his water lately? The dude is an animal right now.
He's been a doggy.
I mean, really, he's playing really well. And the Clippers are just playing at a super, super high level. But first quarter defense by the Nuggets was pretty abysmal. And a big part of that is Nikola Jokic. So as much as I gas up Nikola Jokic and love him to death, you got to have I knew there were going to be early defensive adjustments in this game, given how hot. You allowed James Harden to have 15 points in the first quarter. You're lucky this dude didn't score a 50 piece in this one, or more. And so the defensive adjustments, I'm hoping now that the Nuggets have played this game and gotten a win, they can kind of carry over some of that momentum and that confidence, if you will, and make those adjustments before the game begins. I think now that they've played this Clippers team, because they've played this Clippers team a lot this season, actually, and the Clippers were giving them a pretty hard time early in the year, but that was also a Clippers team without Kawhi Leonard. That's a very different Clippers team, So now that they've been able to play this Clippers team with Kawhi Leonard in full strength and health, and also a James Harden that just wasn't missing in the first quarter, hopefully those adjustments come pre-game and not mid-game.
You know who was missing this whole game?
You say it, because you said it when we were watching without the cameras hot. You got like the mic's hot and the camera's on. Shelby kept saying over and over again,
where's Michael Porter Jr.?
There you go.
And I think that's where, the biggest question mark is, because at the end, to finish the game, you have Russell Westbrook out there with the rest of your starters and Michael Porter Jr. is on the sideline. So what is going on? Is it the defensive effort? Is it the lack of shot-making ability that's been happening? But it's kind of happened at times throughout the whole season.
Yeah.
Very some points.
Streaky.
And that's the thing. You would think if it's coming down to shooting and having that scoring ability, you would have a Michael Porter Jr. on the floor compared to a Russell Westbrook. But Michael Porter Jr. is kind of just giving his disappearing act.
I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you, because it would be wrong of me to walk in here and give you a little bit of hell and give you a hard time about your team and the fact that, and I'm going to say it with my chest, ladies and gentlemen, so just know that, okay? It is absolutely inexcusable to score 0 points in a playoff game when you are playing for the National Basketball Association. You're a millionaire doing this job and you score 0 points in a playoff game. I walked right in the studio. I looked Shelby dead in his eyes. I know the Bucks are his favorite team. I've got the Bucks coming out of that series, so I'm actually a fan of theirs right now. But I said, Kyle Kuzma, how effing dare you? Then I look down at this little box score I've got here. Michael Porter Jr., 3 points in 26 minutes. Now, whatever the case, whatever the reason that he's not playing at the end of the game, okay? We could come up with a million, oh, he tweaked something, oh, whatever. You still played 26 minutes and you only scored 3 points. That can't happen. Michael Porter Jr. will be the X factor in this series. If he, in the playoffs, period.
Yeah.
If some of his threes can fall, if he can heat himself up offensively, Michael Porter Jr. will be the difference between a first-round exit and a deep run by this Nuggets team.
I think his defense is really the most important part. You have a 6'10" long defender that if you just put the effort in,
yep,
you can be a capable defender.
Yep.
And I just think that if the Nuggets are going to advance, that Michael Porter Jr. is going to have to be on the floor and he's going to have to contribute. And I think that's where the streakiness comes in.
Yeah.
One game, he's going to drop 30. I feel like every time he plays my Bucks, he drops 30 every time.
Yeah.
7 from 9 for 3.
It's impossible to know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah, and that's the Nuggets all around the board.
Of course.
You don't know what you're going to get from AG every once in a while. You don't know what you're going to get from CB.
Yep.
I love how they have all 2-letter nicknames.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, with this Nuggets team, I think that's maybe what could make them dangerous if they play their cards right, if they're strategic about it. And it's hard because some of the streakiness is just out of their control. It's just a lack of consistency. We've seen it all year. It's not like this is just a one-off for Michael Porter Jr. We've seen it all season long. But I think where they can try to use that to their advantage is teams may not feel threatened by Michael Porter Jr. and then all of a sudden he's dropping 40.
Yeah.
And you weren't prepared for that because he's been so streaky and inconsistent and he was MIA in game 1. The Clippers may not see him as a threat in game 2. So light it up, Michael Porter Jr. Figure it out. You may not be the guy for big games and big moments, but you got to make some sort of contribution here to this team. There is only so much this Nuggets team can do. If you're a team that's not really playing defense, you better play a whole lot of offense. And Michael Porter Jr. in 26 minutes, only scoring 3 points, is inexcusable. Kyle Kuzma having 0 points in a playoff game, inexcusable. You just don't want to see it.
Not just 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 steals. He didn't record a stat. It's like that legendary Tony Snell meme where it's like 0, 0, 0, 0 with 40 minutes of play.
Unbelievable.
That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. Yeah. And let's talk about, I don't like bringing up the contracts and whatnot, but like you make way too damn much money to have a 3-point playoff game.
You're a max player.
What do we do about that? I mean, the Nuggets have got to get serious. Again, we are going to get to some positives because they did just win. Woo! I am excited, I promise. But you do have to get pretty serious in the off season about what business decisions you're making around a guy like MPJ.
Well, the issue is, this is the showings he's putting up. So who's going to take that max contract?
Right.
For a player
how low is his stock?
Exactly.
Right.
But like we saw how low it was when they weren't getting any love for him at the trade deadline.
Right.
And like that's an ugly, I'd say, truth was that they were trying to shop him.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't any receptive
no
buyers
value.
coming in because it was like, he'll give you 40 one game, but then 3 straight games he'll give you 4.
Like, which version are we paying for here?
Yeah.
Is it the 40 piece or is it the 3 piece?
And that's the tough part is because when you're paying that much money and now with the aprons, trying to get under aprons and just with the salary cap, to pay a player that much and to not get that much production out of him, you're severely handicapping your team. For the Nuggets to come out and win this game today, after how handicapped they were from really, they struggled the whole first half pretty much. For them to win that game, you gotta like sigh of relief.
Yeah.
But if you're the Clippers, you have to be worried.
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
You went out there, you were up 15, you were dominating them at one point, and then you came back, you let them come back, and you lost it.
Yeah.
And like
the Nuggets just beat you, and one of their starters only scored 3 points. I mean, you gotta, as a Clippers fan, I'm not even trolling and being a hater right now, but you have to feel pretty worried about that because you would like to assume you're going to get a little more from MPJ next game. It's going to be inconsistent probably all playoffs long. That's what we've seen from him all season, but you do anticipate you're going to get more than 3 points from Michael Porter Jr. And this Nuggets team was able to win with Michael Porter Jr. only scoring 3. The next subject of conversation, and I already know how you feel about this. I know you're going to have my back on this one, but I just want to make a quick shout out to those of you tuning in that have had so much fun using the video pinned on my profile to flame me about my Russell Westbrook take. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is a playoff game. And I'm pretty sure you guys said just wait until the playoffs. I know we've got a long long stretch ahead of games where Russell Westbrook could potentially make some errors and have some costly moments and whatever. But make sure that when he does show up in the playoffs and do his job, you're just as loud as when he doesn't, okay? Because you guys are sure in my mentions, and I'm actually going to refresh my Twitter right now.
Okay.
Oh, I don't see any of you trolls in there. I really don't. And normally I do. Actually, matter of fact, I remember after the Timberwolves game, quite a bit of you spent a lot of time on my profile resurfacing that video. So let's resurface it again. And why don't you feed Russell Westbrook a compliment or two for the 2 big plays he had late in this game? One offensively splashing a 3 and defensively with a huge moment to run time off the clock and ultimately help the Nuggets win this game. So make sure the apologies and or the recognition is as loud as the disrespect was. I'm not saying he's going to be perfect. I'm not saying that he is going to be outstanding. What I am saying is make sure you do compliment him when he does something correct, because he did. He had big moments in this game.
You know, it's always just like, you know, make sure, you know, the love is just as loud as the hate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
every time.
Russ, like, and that's what I really want fans and Nuggets fans and really basketball fans in general to realize is you have that ability to put him on the floor at the end of the game when like MPJ is struggling.
Yep.
And you don't lose anything. And he brings the passion, he brings the energy. All those plays we saw from Russ today were effort. You know,
every
you can't
single
coach
time.
Effort. Like, it's effort. Balls to the wall, going hard as you can, nonstop. That last turnover, you know, that was effort. He's over here just playing football and playing basketball. That's Russ. And that's why you have him here. He's the guy that you can trust in these tough moments. And it came through today.
Absolutely.
And that's why it just blows me how people are so quick to jump on Russell Westbrook when throughout his career, he's shown he's a dog.
Yep.
He's shown he's that guy.
Yep.
And yes, the last couple of years, he's been scapegoated everywhere he goes. Everybody loves to blame Russell Westbrook for all of their problems. Just like we saw here. The Nuggets are struggling. Why is Westbrook playing? Why is it like, you know, it's all these issues that come up. And for some reason, his name's always in them.
Yep.
But then when they win, you don't want to mention Russell Westbrook anymore.
Oh, and here's the sad reality for the haters out there. I'm sure you're not going to like this one, but I'm not sure the Nuggets would have won that game without Russell Westbrook, if we're being quite honest. And I'm pretty sure that game that they just won was a playoff game. I'm pretty sure I was told every single time Russ made a mistake this whole season, just wait until the playoffs. We're here, baby. That was a playoff game, and Russ showed up big time for the Denver Nuggets. And I would argue they wouldn't have gotten that dub without him. So I hope you're back on Twitter. I hope you're in my mentions with a few compliments or two to Russ, but I know you won't be because you're weak and you're soft, and you know you are. But anyway, Russell Westbrook, big time. And that's what you get out of Russ. And I do want to say one of the things, Shelby, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with the post-Coach Malone era, the post-Malone era, but David Adelman, who has now taken over, he made it very clear after the Grizzlies game. He said, I want to squash all the rumors that I wasn't playing Russ for any particular reason in Sacramento. My mindset moving forward is whoever I believe can close out the game and win the game the best, the 5 best players in that game will be who I play. And that's does not seem like common sense. It really does. And so in a game like this, you do see Michael Porter Jr. sitting the bench, and you see Russell Westbrook out there. And there's a reason for that. It has nothing to do with loyalty that's leaning one way more than the other. It's you're showing up right now. You're giving me what I want. I believe you can help us win this game, so you're going to play. And that's why you saw Russ in the final minutes of this game. And that's why he came up big for the Nuggets.
Let's give some credit to the offensive rebounding.
Oh, my gosh.
That is what won them the game.
Yes.
And they really kept them in the game in the fourth quarter. But then also in overtime, there was a series where it was 2 offensive rebounds and it was a quick turnover or whatever by the Clippers.
Yep.
But literally, like, if it was not for AG, who played his ass off,
those rebounds were huge.
At the end of the game for those rebounds. And
Huge.
Russ,
Yep.
another situation where Russ is making a difference and is not with the ball in his hands.
Oh, I know they hate to see me coming. Prepare to be sick of me if we keep getting this out of Russell Westbrook. I'm telling you right now, prepare to be sick of me because I'm not going to shut up. The same way you never shut up. It's my turn now, baby. And it's Russell Westbrook showing up. And I do think that's why I've hounded so many times this season, Shelby, about effort. It matters. You know, you're never going to get a perfect player that is perfect 100% of the time. But I would like to assume that it is much easier to coach and or train a player that shows up for you 100% of the time than it is for someone who only shows up when they want to and you're not sure what you're going to get. With Russ, you know he's going to probably have some turnovers. you know some of his threes are going to be air balls. You know that. So you just prepare for that. But you also know what he's always going to bring you, which is that effort, that hustle. And it came up huge in this game. I'm so glad you brought up the rebounding because I feel like that's something the Nuggets have not been great at this season.
They've struggled.
They've definitely struggled. And at the very tail end of this game, it was that might have been the X factor.
It definitely was.
Rebounding.
That won in the game. It was
Yep.
It was multiple times where the Nuggets were down, the ball bounces, and they just keep getting the rebounds until they finally score.
Yep.
And that's what won them the game. Offensive rebounding in overtime is exactly what you think it is. It's how you're going to win the game. And if we look at the stats, I don't have the stats right in front of me, but if you look at the offensive rebounds for the Clippers in that overtime and offensive rebounds from the Nuggets, I'm sure it's probably double for the Nuggets than it is for the Clippers because the Nuggets had nonstop second chance option.
They
Non-stop over, and sometimes third, sometimes fourth.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, the name of the game is just making shots and shooting.
Yep.
And then you got to get those shots in order to do it. So that's what
they
Nuggets
would have
were doing.
lost without it.
Yes, 100%.
Without the offensive rebounding, I do feel like the momentum was still in favor of the Clippers. I think going into, fourth quarter, it felt like the Nuggets had quite a bit of momentum. But again, with that defense that we can't really trust just yet because we haven't seen much of it, just when I wanted to get hyped up and excited about whatever, James Harden gets the ball in his hand and splashes a three.
Yeah.
And it is what it is.
No, the Nuggets will obviously lose that game if it wasn't for offensive rebounding. But the whole time throughout all those offensive rebounds, the Nuggets weren't making shots. That's how you got to end up getting offensive rebounds.
Right.
But then the Clippers, every time you could just feel the air getting sucked out of them every time the Nuggets kept getting another offensive rebound because you had that feeling of if the Clippers were to get the ball back right, then they were going to go score.
Yep.
Because they pretty much had kept going down the whole time.
You pretty much knew they were, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like the Nuggets getting those rebounds and then wasting clock. That's what it resets this clock, and then it's just consistently draining the clock. And now, the Nuggets came out a win just because of that.
And I want to talk a little bit because I do have the stats in front of me, so we'll talk through a few of them really quick. The Nuggets shot 33% from three. Huge part of that, I would imagine, is the fact that you get nothing from Michael Porter Jr. I think he hit that three early in the game, and that was all he did the rest of the game offensively. From the field, 44% for this Nuggets team, and that's pretty abnormal for them. They're not a great defensive team, but offensively, they know how to make shots. They're pretty great from the field, especially when it comes to points in the paint. They actually got outscored.
They were getting dominated early, points in the paint.
So you look at those things where they were still able to get a win, but you didn't feel like it was their best effort and or their best production offensively. And it does make you feel pretty good about what you can anticipate in game two. Shelby, I will ask you, what do you foresee happening in game two? It's still in Denver, still home court advantage for this Nuggets team. Do you think they'll be more prepared, or do you think it will flip in reverse of the Clippers and the Clippers will be more prepared?
I actually think the Nuggets will end up blowing them out game two.
Really?
I
love hearing that.
I think that took all the energy and all the will. That first game, the first game of the series is always really big.
Yep.
And it's just to set the tone.
It sets the tone. Yep,
and
absolutely.
The tone got set that even if LA plays with great offense and they shutting down the points in the paints for the Nuggets, that no matter what, the Nuggets will come back and find a way. And that's even without MPJ even hot or even Aaron Gordon hitting threes. It's without all of that.
Yep.
And so with the Nuggets playing like this and coming back and winning, I feel like you might even see a sweep with the way, because that right there is just demoralizing.
It is. No, especially because, I'm going to give a little credit where it's due. The Clippers played great basketball. They really did. I think the Nuggets were able to keep it close enough while still playing mediocre, I would say. I mean, you have no MPJ that's showing up. There were a lot of missed shots early for this Nuggets team, and they didn't seem to have an answer at all. The Clippers were doing whatever they wanted offensively in the first quarter. They got away with whatever they wanted because of the defensive efforts by the Nuggets, or lack thereof, I should say. So you watch this Nuggets team make quite a few mistakes, and that's where you can probably say a little bit of that towards the end of that game, it felt like luck was on their side a little bit. And that's not us diminishing what they did and how hard they played, but you kind of feel that way given how it felt like that entire game they were being outperformed, but they won. And so that's where you do look at this Nuggets team and you know that with a guy like Jokic kind of stepping into that coaching role a little bit and their voices being heard a little bit more under Adelman, that you kind of expect them to refine some of those things that were going so horribly wrong early and fix it and figure it out, which would lead most to assume that they're probably going to take care of business pretty steadily in game 2.
I would think so. It's just the Nuggets were playing at the end of the game like they wanted it more. And that's pretty much the best way I can say it. They were playing like they wanted it more.
Yep.
And that the
100%.
Clippers just assumed that they were going to just hit shots. Because you got a James Harden, you have a Kawhi Leonard, you have guys who are known to hit those shots.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets just seem like, I don't care what people are telling us, because everyone pretty much wrote off the Nuggets the minute they fired Malone.
Uh-huh.
And so ever since then, it's pretty much been like, no matter what everyone's telling us, we're going to go out there, we're going to prove everybody wrong. And it does. And I loved what Adelman said at the end of the Grizzlies game. It's not about the names that are on the floor. It's about who's going to go out there and win the game for them. And so that's what you saw at the end of this Nuggets game right here. And they won. Mm-hmm. It was not about who was out there.
Yeah.
It was just like the best collection of a 5 that will go out there and win the game.
Absolutely. And honestly, that feels like a really simple and like common sense concept. Just play your 5 best guys if you want to win. But I think where it gets a little unique with the Denver Nuggets and where I think Coach Malone really, really struggled is your 5 best guys aren't always going to be your 5 highest paid players, because this Nuggets team is not consistent. They're very, very streaky. So on any given night, you may have to bench Jamal Murray, but Coach Malone wasn't willing to do that. You may have to bench Michael Porter Jr., but I don't think Coach Malone was willing to do that. So sometimes the players that you think or on paper are your best guys in any given game are not. And what I love about Adelman is I don't care how much money you're paid. I don't care how long you've been here. I don't care that you're a starter. If you're not my closer tonight, it's because you're not playing the best and somebody else is. So to me, it's a very simple concept and one that I feel like is kind of common sense. But I always made little jokes about the fact that Coach Malone was far too loyal to that 2023 championship run. It's like he couldn't let go of that. He just wanted to constantly reward the players from 2023. And it's like, that's all good and great, but what have you done for me lately? Jamal was huge in 2023, and MPJ in his own way was also very huge, but not so much anymore. Beginning of the season, Jamal was very streaky. He wasn't showing up. So he should have probably been benched quite a few times. And
showed up today.
But he showed up today.
One of the biggest plays of this Nuggets game, swiping the ball away from Kawhi Leonard and bouncing off Kawhi's elbow, and then the Nuggets get the ball and then go down and take the lead. Like, that's the Jamal Murray that every Nuggets fan remembers from, the playoff runs. That's the Jamal Murray that they need.
Yep.
Now, will they get it every game? I don't know. But then in return, MPJ, CB, AG, they all have to step up, and they can't have this disappearing act, like they kind of did. But, hey, CB had that huge 3 in overtime. Hey, that was a huge 3 in overtime. And you got to think the kahunas to take that shot. You have to take that shot.
Honestly, you know what, though? I want to ask you your perspective on this being a professional athlete. Doesn't it require a certain level of just dog to have won a championship on the high school level, college level, and professional level? I know it's not a single person sport. I know he was on teams that were able to do that, but I think that gives him a little bit of swagger and confidence that a lot of young guys in the league don't have. Like, to be able to say you've done it at every level of your career, 1, that's badass. But 2, I do think it gives you that confidence in those big moments to say, I'm him and I'm taking the shot.
It's giving them the experience in big time moments.
Yep.
And I think that's what's lost with a lot of these young players and even older players that haven't had the playoff experience, the finals experience or anything like that, is because that's just, you would take that shot in the regular season game. And so you have to make it feel like it's just another game.
Right.
You got to go out there and just ball. I'm made for this. I'm built for this. And from everything I've seen, that's how CB is built.
It is.
He seems like he's always going to rise to the challenge. He's never going to fold whenever the times get hard. Because I've seen him in multiple times take shots or put that pressure on him to be like, okay, I can do it. You know what I mean? Like, if no one else is going to step up, I'll shoot it.
Yep.
And that goes to, like what you said, though, winning at all the levels. You kind of build this, repertoire of like, this is me. This is like, hey,
Right.
I'm ready.
I can do it.
Whenever the time
Yep.
needs, I'm gonna shoot it.
When it's my time. It's that next man up mentality, which I think every Nuggets player has had to have this season because you have had a lot of injuries. You had Aaron Gordon missing almost the entire season. You had Jamal Murray out for quite a bit. You had Jokic out a few different times. So CB, actually, fun fact for those of you that don't know, he has played the most games out of any Denver Nugget this year. So he has built, even just in this season, that next man up mentality, having to be prepared for anything. You're a starter 1 second, you might not be the next. You just have to adapt and figure it out. And he's definitely doing that. The one part about this game that I want to ask you about is, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how valuable do you think this game is for the Nuggets' confidence? Because again, we saw in 2023, your second favorite team win a championship. You're lucky though. If you got the Nuggets and the Bucks have done it. The Nuggets have now done it. So like you're sitting in a good spot.
I need them to do it together. Finals,
that would
Milwaukee,
actually be
Denver.
that would be
crazy. Like I would be at every game.
Yeah, that would be insane. I would love that. But we saw in 2023 the Nuggets won. And in that season, they were doubted a lot. There's a lot of people that didn't think Denver could do it. You know, they talked about the hunted versus the hunter. You know, they were just that team that the media didn't really give enough credit to. People weren't talking. Jokic got denied the MVP that year, and I think a lot of people disagreed with that. So in 2023, when they won it all, they had this mindset of kind of being underestimated. Like I think they like that. I think they appreciate that. And ahead of this series, a lot of the ESPN analysts and a bunch of other people thought that the Clippers were going to take this one easy. I think we're seeing in game one, this is not going to be an easy series for anyone. Whoever wins it, it's not going to be easy. How important do you think this game was for their confidence, being a team that fired their head coach and their general manager with 3 regular season games left and have been pretty inconsistent all season?
Huge.
Yeah.
As big as possible.
I agree.
Because what it shows them is, hey, we still have those guys that won that championship. We can go do it again.
Yeah.
We have the guy who should be MVP. I will say this. The guy that should be MVP.
Booyah. You heard it here first.
The guy that should be MVP. Come on, he averaged a triple-double. Like,
I know.
Come
It's insane.
on. Doesn't even make any sense. But like the guy that should be MVP. Anytime he's on the floor, you have a chance to win.
Yep.
And I just think that they're starting to get to a point where the trust is coming back.
Yep.
And it's just like the belief is coming back. Because it was at one point before they fired Malone, they didn't look like they wanted to play with each other. They didn't look like they even wanted to play basketball. They didn't look like they believed they were even going to win these games. So the belief is coming back.
I agree.
And it just looks like a team.
Yeah.
A real team.
They're playing like a team.
A team. They're playing together, and no one's being a ball hog. No one's trying to do too much. That's the one thing I saw about the overtime. So many different people got shots. And that's what I love to see, because it's all about the next man open. The reason that Russell Westbrook had the opportunity for that big 3 is because they were passing the ball around. It wasn't like trying to just force the ball in the Joker's hand, force the ball in the Jamal's hand. No, it was like, let's just run our offense.
Oh, I have goosebumps. But what's new? I think I get worked up and emotional about sports way too easy these days. I really, really do. But I agree with you. I think that the belief in themselves is coming back. And I also think they've probably always believed that they could do it, especially getting rid of the tensions that were very clearly a problem for this Nuggets team all season between Booth and Malone. So getting rid of that, I think they automatically probably felt like we can do this. Like we finally are rid of that BS that we're having to deal with. But I think also giving the belief back to Nuggets fans, because it has been a very emotionally exhausting year. It really has. It has been, riding the highs, riding the lows. You're not really sure what this team can do and how far they can go. But I think starting off the playoffs like this, fighting back from a 15-point deficit, going into overtime, having your weak link, let the media tell you, in Russell Westbrook, be the clutch guy. And it's not Jamal and it's not Jokic, it's somebody else. There's a lot of different storylines within this game that I think are fuel to their fire. And I think they need it. I think they've always believed in themselves, but now it's just that double confirmation of, look at what we're capable of. And I think a lot of other teams probably viewed Coach Malone's firing as a weakness, but I think to the Nuggets, it was actually a strength. They needed that to happen.
Well, usually when you fire your coach in the middle, even at the end of the season, that means that the season's lost. And I think that feeling kind of went on the players a little bit too at first, but then they just really responded right away and then dominated at the end of the season. And everyone's like, all right, we'll just see how the playoffs go.
Yep.
And then they went and put this performance up there today. You have to see it. This is an inspired team.
Very.
And honestly, I'm worried for the Clippers. I'm very worried for the Clippers because somebody not named James Harden or Kawhi Leonard is going to have to step up in order to really change the tide of this series.
Yep.
Because right now, James Harden and Kawhi are doing everything they can.
Yep.
Somebody else has to do something. And that's why it was so cool to watch Russell Westbrook be the guy to step up or AG be the one to step up. And it's not just the Jamal or the Joker show. And who knows, they were saying earlier in the broadcast that Jamal got hurt and it was his foot and he was limping around. So we'll see if that affects him in game 2.
Yeah.
Because obviously,
I was worried for sure.
Injuries have a way of, when you take a day or 2 off and you come back, then, they're sore, especially a foot. So we'll see how that goes. But then once again, shows you how valuable having a Russell Westbrook is, because then you just have another former MVP go in there and keep the offense running. And so that's why it's just, I'm very interested to see what's going to happen.
Me too.
But like I said, if I'm a Clippers fan, if I'm a Clippers player, I should be very nervous because you got some of the worst of the Nuggets in that first half.
I agree with that.
And
yes.
they came back and they completely changed the tide and they stopped you when they needed to. So I'd be very worried.
Their weaknesses were on full display in the first half, for sure.
100%.
The defensive weaknesses that we've seen all season long, full display. The streakiness from a guy like Michael Porter Jr., full display. I mean, it was not a great first half. I would say second quarter, that's where you started to see some things that you liked and you appreciated. But first quarter, oh, Shelby, I almost turned the damn TV off. I couldn't handle it.
Like what Goran said, though, it's not a talent problem for MPJ.
Yeah,
it's a mindset problem, and you can just see the confidence after every miss leave. You can just see it leave him after every miss. It's, all right, I don't want to shoot, and then you start passing instead of shooting.
But he's been doing, what's so frustrating about that? Because I agree, it does feel like it's a mindset issue with MPJ, but like, how do you fix that? Because 1 second he's locked in, he's focused, he's dialed in, he's ready to go. And then the next, it just feels like he is. I use the word insecure when I've described his game a lot this season.
Well,
but
Kawhi has a way to do that to people too, though. I will say that. I think
Kawhi Leonard would probably make me feel pretty insecure.
Like he has a way of just making you feel like you shouldn't be playing basketball
anymore.
Oh
Lord, it's so true. But you know what? But we've been dealing with this with Michael Porter Jr. all season. So I just can't figure out, like, how do you get what you need out of him? I kind of thought and hoped and assumed that maybe he had his own issues with Coach Malone and having that gone was going to be the difference maker. But I mean, again, I was prepared to give you some grief about Kyle Kuzma, and then I look at that box score and I'm like, whoops.
Well, Kyle Kuzma, that's unacceptable.
I mean, that's really, running around, really unacceptable.
Running around, just really hang out with your friends at that point.
It really does feel like, though, there needs to be like a full-blown Michael Porter Jr. deep dive investigation to figure out what's going on here, because I don't understand it.
Well, the one thing I do notice about MPJ, though, is when he gets hot early, he stays hot.
Very true.
Is it a matter of feeding him the ball early, trying to get him some shots? But then, once again, on that same foot, if he misses, then he misses the rest of the game. So where do you find that middle ground of trying to get him hot, but then also not feeding into the bricks?
Yeah.
And
but you know what? And that I have to truly, I have to give so much praise, acknowledgement, and kudos to David Adelman. I think Nuggets fans out there know one of the you know this in sports, Shelby. Most fans, if not all fans, love to coach from their couch and think they know everything. I get it. But for the most part, I think all Nuggets fans shared the same frustration with Coach Malone, which was, what is the strategy behind your rotations? They don't make sense. This guy is ice cold. Why is he still playing? I have so much respect for David Adelman for benching a max contract vet who did win a championship in Denver in the first game of a playoff series because he just simply was not doing enough. That takes a lot. To be the to step into a role right before the playoffs begin and be able to look at a vet on a max contract and say it's not your moment, that's big time. And I think that will go a long way with this Nuggets team, because next man up. Who's it going to be in game 2? It may not be MPJ. And that was one thing I felt the most frustrated with Coach Malone at times was it is very clear Jamal should not be in right now. Why is he still in right now? It's very clear, MPJ, that 6th three that he just took that didn't go, pull him. He's got to cool off. Something's got to give. And Coach Malone wasn't really willing to do that. And David Adelman very clearly is. He is not afraid to bench a max contract guy and say, it's not your moment.
But you know what, though? I bet the players knew that about him already, though.
You're probably
And
right.
that's why when he became in a position of power, they're like, all right, well, we already know how he works. He's been our coach for, 8 years?
Yep.
And so we already know how he works. And so that's why when you think about how Malone had his, his rotation.
Yeah.
The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
Very true.
And that's exactly what was happening with,
true.
Michael Malone's rotation. And so it's just refreshing. Like you said, though, it's crazy that just playing the best 5 players at that time is so controversial. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like your best players are prone to have bad games.
Of course.
And so maybe this isn't the time for them to be taking a game-winning shot. You know what I mean? Like they're stressing.
What a concept, though, because to be honest with you, Shelby, that feels like common freaking sense, but it doesn't feel so common these days.
Well, politics is a mother when it comes to basketball, and that's the issue, because then since the NBA is such a player-driven league,
it is very.
If you're not the guy that's on the floor, then the next day you're like, hey, I want to trade. And then, or you're just willing to, basketball players are willing to blow up the whole locker room.
Do basketball players have too much entitlement and diva mentality?
Well, yeah, because it's more individualized.
Yeah,
even though it's a team sport, it's more individualized, because they'll always say this about the difference between basketball and football. Basketball players, their face is always on camera. You always see them. They're always on all the endorsements. They make sure that you see them after every shot, every dunk. They're always flexing or doing something for the camera.
Yep.
They do something that football players don't have the luxury to, because it's more of a team sport in football.
Right.
You could have someone on football on the right playing defensive end that has a great rush, but then the linebacker blitzed and made the sack. But nobody cares about the great rush.
Right.
But that's bad. But basketball, if you throw alley-oop, you want just as much praise for the pass as you do for the dunk.
Yeah.
And so it's a different mindset, and it's just also the leagues are just way different.
Mm-hmm.
Being a player-driven league, the NBA players can just be like, I don't feel like playing today, or trade me, or I don't like this coach, let's get rid of him. But in the NFL, it's always the next man up mentality of, okay, you don't want to be here, you don't want to do that, all right, we'll just get somebody else to come here and do it. And so that's where the difference.
Today,
yeah,
right?
That's where the difference is with basketball. But then, like you said, though, that mindset that you saw come up at the end of the game today, that's the mindset that's going to win them games. And that, like I said before, if the Clippers, if you take anything away from this game, it has to be, you have to come with more effort.
Yep.
Because offensive rebound is nothing but effort. And you saw that the whole time. Russ was charging in for all those offensive rebounds. Aaron Gordon was charging in for all those offensive rebounds. Where was everybody else? They're already ready to go on transition. They're already ready to go break. And that's where it's Zubac in there by himself, and everybody else is already pretty much running, trying to go get a fast break.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to win. And they didn't win.
You just brought something up that made me think a little bit too about one of my qualms with the Nuggets, one of my icks. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If I get an ick with a man, I'm happily engaged now. Trust me, I don't have icks with him. Otherwise, we would not be engaged.
Would not be there.
Because once I do get the ick with a man, it's over with. I can't reverse the damage. Unfortunately, you will ick me out forever. Okay. One of my Nuggets icks that I really need them to just cut it out immediately. Play through the whistle. You are going to gain nothing by stopping and begging to the ref that doesn't owe you a thing. They don't care about how you feel about what just happened. They likely will not take responsibility for a bad call. They also maybe just missed it. You do not get, the only thing you gain in that moment, not playing through the whistle and stopping to have a conversation with the ref to try to make your case as to why it was a good or a bad call. The only thing you gain there is pulling yourself mentally from the basketball game. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. I love Nikola Jokic. He does a little too much talking to the refs. And it's like, I get you're frustrated. I get it was a bad call. It doesn't change the fact that there's still a game going and defense isn't being played. And James Harden has the ball and he's got 15 in the first quarter. Like, we're done doing that, Nuggets, really, because it never works in your favor. Very rarely do the refs go, you know what, you're right. Boop, let me blow the whistle. Let me give you what you want. They just don't do that. And we know officiating in the NBA sucks at times. It does. Like, this is not new information. I'm sure there was moments in the Bucks game where you're like, really, ref? I mean, come on. And it's just the way that it goes. So play through the whistle. It drives me insane. The only thing you gain doing that is removing yourself mentally from what you should be focusing on, which is, okay, you missed your shot. You thought you got fouled and they didn't think you did. You also missed your offensive rebound, so that's also on you. But while you're complaining to the ref, James Harden has the ball and just splashed a 3 on everybody's head. So what are we doing?
I always wonder, are they even trying to make the shot? Because a lot of the times I see a lot of these flops. It's like, are you trying? Or are you just trying to get the foul? And I've seen it, when the Bucks were playing the first game, and then this game. All the stopping and complaining for calls, like, it's the playoffs.
It's too much, yeah.
It's the playoffs. The little ticky-tack fouls are not going to get called. Everyone trying to flop and jump back and, like, throwing their hands up. What are we doing?
The flopping is ridiculous.
It's the playoffs.
Who do you think is the biggest flopper in the league right now?
In the league, I would say Jalen Brunson or Shai. Or,
Oh, God, the free throw merchant. My
Lord. Because it's like, and I saw Tyrese Halliburton do it a little bit today. But if you're shooting a jumper and you don't go straight up, that's not a foul. You're jumping into a player to shoot a jumper, and then you're saying, oh, he fouled me. How is that a foul? You created the contact. You jumped into them and then did a shot and be like, oh, that's a foul. So that's a lot of what Oklahoma City does. But also I see that's a lot of what Jalen Brunson does. And it bothers me because it's just foul baiting, but we'll see how it works in the playoffs. But in the regular season, when you're going to free throw line 15 times, that
SGA is a merchant with the free throw line, isn't he? Oh, but apparently he's our MVP, so whatever.
And I get it, though, because the reason I say I get it, though, and it's not because I think he deserves to win. It's because they don't want the greats to be displaced by someone that they don't know is going to be the greatest yet. And I think that's what it is, because the same thing happened to LeBron.
Yeah.
Where they didn't, the years of success.
Yep.
They tend to be like, all right, well, Jordan only has this many MVPs. We can't give LeBron this many, even though he deserves it, because we got to keep this debate going. Now the same thing's kind of going on with Joker right now. There, hands down, there should be no one else involved in this MVP race other than Nikola Jokic. Like, no one else. What he's doing, and I'm a Bucks fan. I love Giannis. I love the way he plays basketball, the stats he puts up. He had a historic year. He had a better year than he did his MVP season. But I'm also realistic. Let's look at Nikola Jokic. He averaged a triple-double. He was top 3 points, rebounds, and assists.
Yep.
And we're not talking about an MVP for that?
It's insane.
So that's where I'm saying, like, we're getting bored with Nikola Jokic, and that's not fair to his legacy.
You're so accurate. It's painful how accurate you are, considering you're not a Nuggets fan. It's the truth, though. I even hear media members, national media members that get paid to talk about every team in the NBA, talking with such a dismissive and unimpressed tone when they talk about Nikola Jokic. Just because he does it a lot doesn't mean it's not still impressive.
Or is it because he's not dunking on people? And
is it because he doesn't have a personality? Is it because he doesn't have social media and he's not in the mix with the people and he's not popping out and show? Okay, this man loves his family and loves his horses. What's the effing problem?
Well, it's just not great for the brand, the brand, or the ratings.
Yes.
He's not one to give us, headlines or anything like that. And that's where you get bored with him.
Yep, it's true.
And just same with that Giannis.
I get it.
You get bored with a Giannis because Giannis isn't out of the club. Giannis isn't.
It'd be fun if he was. Kind of cool.
Well, what club you gonna go to in Milwaukee? Please
let Shelby know the place and the time.
I'll tell you this. That's a whole different story. I'm not even gonna say that. I don't love Milwaukee, but I'll tell you this though. I just believe that, if Nikola Jokic played the game above the rim, you would see a lot more love for him than you do now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think that's really where, it's hard to sell the way Nikola Jokic plays.
And it's hard to sell Nikola Jokic as a personality. Because
you can tell, like, basketball is not the most important thing of his life.
Correct.
Which it shouldn't be. Football is not the most important thing in my life.
Right.
my family is. You know,
Right.
like that's how it's supposed to be. They're your number ones. They're
Apparently,
supposed-
that's a crime, Shelby.
well, no, because
Your family coming first is crazy work.
well, you know what it is though. People want their entertainment to come first, and in their eyes, we're entertainers.
Mhm.
And so if we don't go all in on this entertainment, then they have an issue with us. And so
Right.
and that's just where it comes for Nikola Jokic. But let's not miss the fact that he's playing historic Wilt Chamberlain basketball right now.
He really is.
Like, come on.
It's next level. And honestly, I think that's what makes Nikola Jokic so cool, though, is he doesn't care about the brand. He doesn't care about being outside. He doesn't care about being in commercials. He doesn't care about, quite frankly, he doesn't care about MVP either. He just shows up, does his job, goes home to his family, and eat, sleep, repeat. Like truly, that's what he does. And so the MVP conversation, I think at the end of the day, Jokic cares more about winning a championship than he does winning MVP. So maybe this is one of those years where he should have had it and didn't, and the Nuggets make a deep run. Who knows? Who's to say? I think the Clippers are one of the hottest teams in the league right now, and based on what the Nuggets just did against them, there's always a chance. Really quick, you guys, we have post-game presser footage from Coach David Adelman, and then in just a moment, we'll be joined by Brandon Krisztal before we wrap things up and get out of here. So really quickly, let's play Coach and hear what he's got to say about that very tight and a little stressful overtime win for the Denver Nuggets in Game 1 against the Clippers. Let's check it out.
Brendan Vogt, DNVR. What an introduction to you to the playoffs there as a head coach, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge advantage in points off turnovers for you guys. I think you were plus 20 in that category.
Yep.
What did you think of the execution in transition, particularly on the defensive side?
Oh, we just flew around. Those two guys caused so many issues. I thought we adjusted too much early instead of just doing what we do hard. And I thought their intensity was better than ours early in the game. And the end of the second quarter is the reason why we won the game. We don't have that run. I think it was 13-2 to get it to 4. And it felt like one of those games you're just kind of slowly crawling uphill. Then it was 3 at the end of the fourth. Seemed like we were going to win the game, tied. It just felt like it was incremental steps to win a basketball game. So it wasn't pretty on either end, or I'm sorry, for either team, but you just got to make enough plays to win. And I told the guys in there, I'm just going to play the guys I feel like are impacting the game the most. The stat sheet really doesn't mean anything to me. But they did a good job with their adjustments. We're going to have to watch the tape and do a better job of attacking it. But that's what this is, And it was funny. I thought our best adjustment of the night was, let's go back to doing what we thought we were going to do. Let's just do it better. And we did.
Russ had that really rough week a couple weeks ago. And you said after the Kings game, you said, I'm not playing him or playing Jalen.
Yeah.
I'm playing whoever's going to win. What did you see from him late in this game for him to be able to be that kind of impact player that you're looking for?
Yeah, Russ is Russ. Defensively, he was absolutely incredible. He was playing free safety out there. I thought a lot of the reasons why the turnovers happened, even if it wasn't him forcing it, just the way he was roaming around and impacting the game, was great for us. And then offensively, a couple of times I thought he attacked. Maybe we could have pulled it out and executed, but that's what Russ does. He's going to play in attack mode. So I don't think he's going to change after 17 years. If he sees somebody in front of him one-on-one, he's going to attack. And then he made an enormous 3, in the fourth. CB's 3. Aaron hit a big one. And that's what we're talking about right now. We have to be able to make shots when they triple, quadruple Jamal and Nikola. That's just the bottom line. And you can come up with all the schemes you want and change the offense and all this stuff. They're going to bring bodies. So people have to cut and finish, or they got to catch and shoot and make shots for us to do something special.
When you look at Jamal's first half and his second half, just forget the shot making or whatever, what the field goal percentage was, but there was a noticeable uptick in his aggression.
Yeah.
Was there anything said, or was it just kind of Jamal just kind of being Jamal, and how does that encapsulate how you guys are as a team?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's almost like the worse things got, the better he got. And that seems like that's always who he is. And I also thought Jamal, he's 7 for 20, 3 for 7, but the ones he made were so huge and so big. I know one, it got us back to, we were down 7, took us back down 4, made one to tie it finally. And the side pick and roll was really good to us tonight, allowed us to attack in different ways, flash people behind the defense, and Jamal got loose a little bit that way. So, and then obviously Nikola every night, man. It's 29, 12, and 9 in that game, that physical of a game, just incredible.
On the other end of the Russ thing, Malone always said that Michael Porter took pride in closing and being able to close.
Yeah.
Rest of this series going forward, what can he do to kind of get going? What can you guys do to kind of get him going throughout?
Well, I think obviously, everybody has to engage the game. And I think everybody takes pride in finishing games on our team. And if Jalen Pickett has a night, he's going to finish the game. That's just it. That's the bottom line. It's the guys that are playing the best at that time are going to finish. And I thought the runs that were made, I was going to go back to Mike at the end of the second, and we made a run. And it's like you can't stunt runs when things are happening. And then I felt bad for Mike because he sat so long. There was a couple situations late game. Do you throw him back in? Is that fair? Is that fair to somebody and the ball finds them and they've been sitting for not game time but real lifetime 40 minutes? So there's two ways to look at that. You can say, well, I chose not to play Michael, or you can say, should I put Michael in a really unfair situation? Should I do that to him? I don't think so. And so I think the five guys that finished did their job, and we won this game defensively. We really did. And with timely shots from guys that aren't named Jamal and Nikola.
Coach, Nikola was involved in two plays that were pretty strange. I think one where he got hit in the face and then it's on the ground. They started the 5-second clock and he kind of threw it in, ended up getting a technical.
Yeah.
And then the other where the Clippers bench is holding onto the ball.
Yeah.
What did you make of those plays and sort of how he handled them and how the refs controlled the game there?
Right. We watched it. He got hit. It wasn't intentional. Derek just caught him. And I think he thought there would be a call after the play and there was no call. As far as the coaching thing, my guy's got to step it up. If we're allowed to just grab the ball and stop plays from happening, and it's not a delay of game, what have we been doing all year? The assistants, I was an assistant, so what was I doing all year? So if that is okay to do, and I guess that's okay, then we should start doing it. I've never seen that before, to be honest. But, again, if they don't call it, they don't call it, and it didn't have any impact on the game. So it is what it is. I'm sure the league will look at it. Yeah, he's pretty competitive guy, obviously, and an amazing coach. So, that's what this series is going to be. There's so many winning people in this series, and basketball pedigree, NBA history. You got a championship coach down there, and I said this, and I'm not trying to overdo this. James and Kawhi are so special. So, this series has it all. Like, if I was a fan, I'm watching this series. It's physical. There's playmaking. There's role players making big shots. Schematically, I thought the game was awesome as far as the adjustments that were made on both sides. So excited for Monday.
David, you guys were trailing most of the game, and I know you said that it was that run at the end of the second quarter that allowed you to win it. But the fact that you don't lead again till late, you grind it out in overtime. What does it say about what this team has, what this team is capable to close out a game like that?
Yeah, I'll say it again. It's just stay connected in tough times. It really is. That's what it is. In the playoffs, the timeouts are so long. There's so much conversation that, it can kind of go sideways when things are going well. You got 3.5 minutes to talk to each other in a really intense moment. And I thought the guys did a good job of pushing each other the right way. And we have to do that throughout this series. This is going to be extremely tough. We know that. And I thought I saw that the last 3 games, which were playoff games, to get into this thing. And that's the key, man. Go out and play and all that stuff, but stay together and cheer for the guy that's out there if you're not out there. Help that guy, talk to him. So that's what it takes. And if that's what it takes to win 4 times, let's do it. Let's stay together.
So, David, in the back on your right.
Sorry.
You're good. You just kind of touched on stay in there, cheer the guy on, whatever. So when you have players that aren't as engaged because the night's not going their way, in this case it happened to be Mike, and you're focused on what's going on the court, how do you get a guy back in that's maybe hanging out at the end of the bench and not that engaged with what's going on? And in this case, I'm saying, but in general, to keep a guy that isn't having their best night in the huddle and around everything.
I'll be honest. I'm coaching the game. So guys have to stay engaged themselves. These are grown men trying to win a basketball game on a team. So the guys on the bench can talk to them. Our assistant coaches can talk to them. When I had a chance, I talked to Mike, and I was trying to be communicative about what my thoughts were, how I thought he could get back in the game. And like I said, sometimes runs happen, and you go, I just don't know if we can take somebody out right now with the way the team is playing. And I'm going to say it again, like I've said last week. if Mike comes out and he plays and he's engaged defensively, he's knocking down shots, Michael will be out there, just like everybody else in that locker room. I'm going to keep saying it. I mean it. We're going to do anything we have to do to win a basketball game.
How big was Aaron for you on both sides?
Incredible. Some of the offensive rebounds, second possessions, the play where he went to the basket and dunked it, and we were having a hard time scoring, a late clock, defensively, walling up at the rim, guarding Zubac, guarding Kawhi, switching on to James and double drags. Absolutely incredible. Such a good basketball player, winning basketball player, so happy for Aaron. Yep.
Like I said, BK, we do see our friend BK. He is about to join us. He's actually setting up shop right on the court, actually. We've got him as our infield reporter for this series and beyond, taking care of all things Denver Nuggets. But you were able to hear a little bit of that and understand that, like, it just seems like Coach Adelman, he has trust that's built within these guys, and they trust him, he trusts them, and he's just making smart decisions. You know, he didn't even take it personally or make it weird not playing Michael Porter Jr. It was just very simple. Michael Porter Jr. wasn't one of the best 5 guys that needed to close this game, so he didn't.
I actually love how he explained it, though.
I agree.
With, MPJ's been sitting, and it wouldn't be fair to him to get back on the court and then have to take a shot in a big moment. You haven't really done anything in 40 minutes. And so that's your coach actually looking out for you too. It's because he doesn't want to put you in a position to have to win the game.
Yep.
And you're not even warm.
Yep.
So, it's great to hear all that stuff, but also it was great to hear that for him, he understood and he saw how important AG was to this game and at the end of the game.
Valuable.
Yes, all the offensive rebound. I know I keep bringing up offensive rebounding, but do the people at home realize how important offensive rebounding is? Like that day, the Nuggets won that last drive, that last overtime.
Yep, they did.
Truly off of the offensive rebounding of Russell Westbrook and AG. And that right there, Coach Adelman, like you deserve kudos for leaving those guys on there, because a lot of guys, a lot of times Russ is off the floor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? MPJ's in there, and it doesn't matter. Like no matter if he's cold or not, you're a max guy. Get your ass out there.
And sometimes I think with coaches, you have to feel the momentum as well. You have to be able to feel that. And let's bring in Brandon Cristal, BK, from Ball Arena, because I'm sure he was able to feel a thing or two about momentum. BK, that was maybe one of the best games and one of the best ways, I think, for this Nuggets team to start this series off. Immediate reaction from you. Like, what are your biggest takeaways in this one?
Well, you guys were just touching on it, and we obviously heard from David Adelman. You heard my question there, because it was obvious to see, and they probably, I don't know if they did show it on TV or not. I had the game on my laptop, but, just kind of checking back when there was a controversial type play. But in timeouts, MPJ was at the very end of the bench talking to, I think, one of the trainers or assistants, but it was not engaged. And so we know that could happen with him from time to time. But I asked Jamal a similar question as well. Like, how do you keep guys engaged? And you heard Adelman say, I got to coach the game. But the point is, and what I was getting to is you guys, and Shelby, you talked about playing the guys that are playing the hottest. And he also said he didn't want to do a disservice to MPJ. And after 40 minutes of sitting, throw him in there, he's open in the corner, and he's got, no, I guess, he's not warmed up at all. He's cooled off, if you will. And so, I think that over the next day or two, they'll have to get him re-engaged. But I credit David Adelman for doing whatever it took to win, including leaving Russ in, where Russ giveth and taketh away. He makes huge plays. He comes up with rebounds. If that dude was 4 inches taller, he would rebound as well as Dennis Rodman did. I mean, he's already a phenomenal rebounder, maybe the best rebounding point guard of all time. And he just finds his hands on the basketball. He anticipates where it's going to come off. And at the same time, he does things that you don't necessarily need to do, which is force the action at the rim and try to get to the basket when you don't need it. And you heard Adelman talk about that. But a credit to them for getting back in the game, closing out the second quarter strong, and then hanging around even in the third quarter where it's 70-68, then it's 75-68, digging back in, and even Joker bringing himself back in. And I don't know if he started talking yet or if we're going to go back to if I'm going to have a chance to catch him. But felt like he almost subbed himself back in at the 9:33 mark. I'm not sure Adelman signaled him, but that's okay when you're that guy.
Right.
BK, so how was the Clippers' body language and the mood after that loss? They had to lead the whole game, and then you come and really get outwilled in that overtime to lose the game.
Yeah, I saw James walking in, and I caught the very end of Kawhi, and then I saw Batum walked by me in the hallway, and I think the sense is, especially if they end up losing the series, is, oh, we let that one get away. You're always going to look at a game where you've got a big lead, or you've got the lead kind of the entire game, and then you squander it. At the same time, not just for those guys, and I mentioned the three vets on the team, but if you've covered enough playoffs, especially with veteran teams, that these guys, and we saw it last year with the Nuggets going down 0-2 to the Timberwolves, losing both those games here at Ball Arena in round 2. They know that these are typically long series, especially when you're talking about the 4-5. And we saw in the other 4-5 game with your Bucks, no Dame Lillard, but it got close for a stretch there in the fourth, even though the Pacers had been up by 20. The point being is these guys aren't expecting this to be a sweep one way or the other. So when you've played as much basketball, I know Kawhi hasn't played a lot of basketball in April and May of late, but as much championship level basketball as he's played, as many playoff games as James Harden's been in, and Nicholas Batum, you understand that the series isn't won or lost in game one. So I don't think they were more down than you might be. And that's kind of one of the differences between football and basketball, baseball, or hockey, is you have a chance to get back into a series. Even if you're down 0-2, we know 0-3, those numbers are way different. And so, I don't think they were too down. And even if they lose Monday, they're like, now we're going home. Although we know that Clippers home court advantage isn't maybe even what the Lakers is or what Denver certainly is. This crowd was rocking tonight.
I loved it. I could hear it. I really could feel the energy from the crowd. You had just mentioned not thinking it's going to be a sweep, and I'm not alluding to that at all, but this did feel a little similar to some of those Lakers games where in the season that the Nuggets did sweep, where it felt like the Nuggets got outplayed, outperformed. It was very close. It was down to the wire, yet the Nuggets came out on top. It just felt very similar in that way. Did you kind of feel that same sense where the Clippers are playing at a very high level? James Harden, 15 points in the first quarter. You've got Kawhi Leonard playing out of his mind. Zubac really taking over with Jokic defending him very, very well in that first half. Just overall, it felt like the Clippers really did play better basketball for a large part of this game, and yet the Nuggets found the will and found the way.
Yeah, and that's what championship teams are capable of doing. I'm not saying that this is a championship team. That's going to obviously bear itself out over the next few weeks and months. But you're right. They got the best shot. And we do know, another thing, when you look, especially in the NBA, the road team can often steal a game one. We see that all the time in any round, first, second, third, even in the finals, where that certainly can happen. And so the Clippers were primed to do that, because you've got all week. In this case, if you're not talking about the play-in teams, you've got all week to game plan, and you know what they're going to do. You've seen what they're doing, even though it's three games with David Adelman as head coach. Everything's going to run through Joker like it did. What Russ is and he isn't. Guys may or may not make as many threes as they need. And so, that's usually that game one gets stolen. And so by not stealing it, you're going to settle in. And you talk about settling in. Jamal even kind of touched on it. Feels like there's never been a guy who settles into things more than Jamal, with the way he settles into the season or settles into a series. Now, he was taking shots, but other than that first three where it looked like he got really good lift, he's 4 for 15 for a stretch, but then he makes a couple of huge threes, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, that's playoff Jamal. In the fourth quarter, it's when he plays his best. For the most part, he did. He also, got a big bucket as well that wasn't just a three. And so, and I think, he was active on defense. That's something that Jamal talked about. They were communicative. They were talking on defense, even though Harden had such a big day. Zubac was able to do what he did. And you only give up 22 to Kawhi. I think you'll take that most days.
I think so too.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon, did you hear anything? Any updates on Jamal's foot? Was there any limping going on? Was he walking around pretty healthy after the game?
It seemed like it. He's not a big post-game ice guy in the locker room that we see, or walking with ice on his knees or ice on his ankles. Every now and then you can see a guy that clearly has the ice on as they're leaving the building. Jamal tends to when he wants to, move pretty quickly in his post-game routine. When I say move pretty quickly, I'm saying just not linger, not do a lot of extra stuff. And I don't know if it's just that he approaches things differently than the guys that ice everything all the time. Christian Brown had his feet in an ice bucket and had his knees wrapped as well. And he's only in year 3. He just turned 24, 2 days ago. But best I could tell, he was walking okay. We'll see, though. We know adrenaline can certainly help you get through a game. But then once your body cools down, what happens in those next couple of days? And obviously it's a shorter turnaround with just 2 days, with the Sunday off and then into Monday. Then they get the 3 days before they play in LA. So, but best I could tell, the way he finished the game and the activeness that I think that, or activity level, I guess, I don't think it's something to be overly concerned with right now.
Last thing, BK, before we let you go, what do you have to say to all those Wait till the playoffs. Russ haters. Felt like he had a pretty big day today. Of course, the playoffs could go for a whole lot more weeks and months here, but pretty great what you saw from Russell Westbrook today in this game.
Yeah, I think, you say you give it and take it away. That's that's what I said. And you get the full Russ experience where he is grabbing huge rebounds that you wouldn't think a 6'4" guy is going to grab amongst other big guys. But then he will rush a shot, or he will try to put it back up, or he will attack when he doesn't need to. And, as you guys obviously played Adelman's post-game comments, that's even in year 17 or whatever, he is still always in attack mode. And that's just the way he thinks. He was trying to kind of sneak one in there late that he missed, where he looked and he's like, no one's really guarding me. All right, here I go. And the layup just rims in and out. And so I think you are going to get more good than bad with Russ, it feels like. And had Michael Porter Jr. contributed more, you would have just got less Russ minutes. But you weren't getting anything from MPJ. And there was a play late in the second quarter, middle of the second quarter, where the turnover, and when I looked at the replay, maybe MPJ wasn't as close as I thought, but they just kind of let Powell run away, and he didn't even try to catch up and make a play. Whereas, Russ would, certainly CB, AG would, and MPJ, you're like, okay, this just isn't going to be this guy's day. Then I think he'd end up sitting as much as he did, probably not. But I think with Russ, you got to take the good with the bad and hope that you get more good, but also hope you don't have to play him in the final 3 minutes of a game because MPJ is bringing enough and your starters are ready to roll.
Absolutely. Well, BK, thank you for joining us. What a game. I'm excited that you're able to be there and witness that and just the excitement of it all. I actually prefer when we're not winning or leading by a lot and it's close. I prefer to be at home because I'm like, Shelby got to see it. I walked into the studio and I was like, you might have to call an ambulance. Like, I think I might pass out.
She screams like my grandma.
Yeah. He was like, this feels like I'm watching Sports with my grandma. I'm like, yep. So BK, I'm sure you're not surprised to hear that, but nonetheless, what a game, what a win for the Nuggets. And you and I can touch base on Monday and chat a little bit deeper about it and also preview game 2 against the Clippers. Hopefully a repeat of what we saw tonight.
Yeah, maybe less stressful though. Maybe they win by 7 or 8.
I hope
going
so.
Away.
I sure hope so. Thank you so much, BK. We'll see you very, very soon, Monday.
Thanks.
You guys, this has just been craziness and what a game. Shelby, thank you for being here and joining me in studio. I'm going to try to get Shelby in here with me as much as humanly possible because he's back and forth between you're in a lot of cities, but Denver, you're here quite a bit.
This is home. We're here most of the time.
Yeah. And so when he's here, we're going to try to get him in studio as much as humanly possible. We've got a lot of exciting content coming this week. We've got more post games for the Nuggets. Obviously, draft happening Thursday. Lots of things happening with Avs, Rocky. I mean, you name it. We've got a jam-packed content schedule over here at Guerrilla Sports. So we appreciate your guys' support in tuning in and always being with us. You can subscribe to our YouTube, Guerrilla Sports YouTube, as well as following us on all of our social channels. We do live tweeting throughout games. There's post-game content, pre-game content, shows throughout the week. So you won't miss anything. The CU stuff, jersey retirement. Was it a little too soon to retire those jerseys up in Boulder?
I would say Travis is understandable. Heisman.
Yeah.
Shador skipped the line. You would have got there eventually, though, but definitely skipped the line.
I agree with you. Yeah, so there's so much to discuss in the world of sports, and we'll make sure you guys are covered on all of it. We appreciate you tons for being here. As you know, I'm a happy camper. Big Nuggets dub in overtime against a very talented Clippers team. So lots of stuff to be excited about, but hopefully also a lot of stuff that the Nuggets will be refining between now and Monday night, because I know that Clippers team will be super motivated to beat the Nuggets. So thank you guys tons for tuning in. This has been another Guerrilla Sports Off Court, a post-game live reaction show for Game 1 in the Clippers Nuggets series. And this is presented by Trusted American Mortgage. You can head to trustedamerican.com to see how they can help you save some money, getting you a better interest rate, lowering your monthly payments. Shout out to our friends over at Trusted American. Everyone give Shelby a follow on all things social. I'm going to convince him to be a full-time Nuggets fan by the end of this season if it's the last thing that I do. It won't happen, but I am rooting for your Bucks because I have them winning against the Pacers. So
need them to win, baby.
Dame coming back will shake a lot of things up, and I'm very excited about that. We've got so much fun basketball to watch tonight. Timberwolves, Lakers, that will be a great series. So a lot of exciting things, and just happy that the Nuggets were able to get it done. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you Monday for a regular off-court show at 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, as well as a post-game live reaction show following Game 2 here at in Denver at Ball Arena. So we'll see you then.